Welcome back to another amazing, powerful, impactful episode of the Power of Progression podcast. I am so grateful to have my guest, Mr. Troy Brown here. Troy is a former professional soccer player in the UK and former IFBB professional bodybuilder. He's also been featured on the cover of Flex magazine. He's also been a health and fitness expert for at least 25 years. He's probably been before that, before he even knew. Troy was also personally mentored by an amazing man by the name of Bob Proctor, which a lot of you guys might know from the life-changing book, The Secret. He also has an amazing and super successful online personal training and mindset coaching business. It's called Apex Life, which we'll get into today. And he has mentored hundreds of people from CEOs, celebrities, athletes, and many other high achievers. And now Troy has an amazing, amazing podcast, and it is called The Persistence Factor, which I had the honor of being interviewed on not too long ago. And now he is a new friend of mine and somebody that I'm going to build a long-time relationship with and making sure we add value to each other's lives. Mr. Troy, the Governor Brown, what is going on, my friend? How are you?
Goodness me, John, that was a intro and a half. Wow. I need to do a better job on your intro because you really delivered there. You went above and beyond. Amazing. Thank you so much. And it's an honor and a privilege to be here and to provide value to your listeners. I'm fired up.
Absolutely. I love it. So tell us, Troy, we're going to dive deep into some questions, but, first off, how was your weekend, man? Let's start there. How was your weekend?
Weekend was good. I think we kind of work six days a week and we take Sundays off to recuperate and to rest our mind, to rest our body, sort of rejuvenate, if you will. So Sundays, we just like to completely shut it down and just give back to ourselves. I'm talking about my partner and I, Jasmine. So it's all about, giving back to each other as a couple and relaxing, taking a break, switching off, not doing any social media work, not doing any work related stuff, just chilling out and, having a good time and giving back to our relationship.
It's so important, isn't it? I mean, it's crucial to be able to disconnect in order to reconnect.
Absolutely.
Right? It's amazing. And I love that you do that. So Troy, you've been in the fitness world for 25 years now. Mm-hmm. And you've been a professional soccer player. What I really want to know is what was Troy like before all this? So before, your success in soccer, what was your life growing up like? I mean, what was your family like? What was your teenage years like? Give me a little insight on that. Because I think a lot of people turn to fitness for many different reasons, as well as sports. And I'm just curious to hear a little bit more about your backstory.
I think what comes to mind, first of all, John, is I had really great parents that really pushed and motivate me. My dad was a disciplinarian, from Jamaica. So he was really into discipline and he always told me to go after things, don't settle, take risks. So I always listened to that from a very, very early age. So I've always been a type of person to always take risk and, never do things that are sort of the average, if you will. I always wanted to do more. So I got that from him. And I think him teaching me discipline at a young age, I think that's what attracted me to sports. And I think my dad is someone I really looked up to because he was a cricket player. He was also a 100-meter sprinter as well back in Jamaica. So he really pushed me with the sport kind of thing. And I think that's probably why I kind of got heavily involved in sports at a young age. But I got into, before we go into the bodybuilding, I kind of got into playing football accidentally. It was just something that I kind of stumbled on when I was about 8 or 9 years of age. And I wasn't very good in the beginning. I really sucked. And I remember the defining moment for me when I think I must have been about 9 years of age. We were doing in England, we do this thing where everyone lines up and you get to pick on it. You get chosen to be picked on a team. So there's two captains and they'll go through, who's going to be picked first. And I was the last person to get picked. So I made the decision even back then at 8 years of age that I was never going to be picked last again. So I just practiced every day. Anytime my opportunity I got, I remember I would literally tie a weight around my left leg because I was predominantly left-footed. And I would practice with my right foot against the wall. So I was obsessed with just, becoming a really good soccer player. And over the years, I got better and better and better. And then I got nominated to play for my district and for my county. And then a lot of pro clubs started looking at me at a young age. And then I ended up signing professional forms with a team called Nottingham Forest. But before that, I was a schoolboy with West Ham United. I also had a spell with Crystal Palace. So I always had the confidence. And actually, I would tell a lie, John. I actually lacked a lot of self-confidence when I was younger. And I think that's probably why I got into bodybuilding. But how I sort of transitioned from pro soccer into bodybuilding was that I was really very, very small at a young age. I was very skinny. And a lot of the football teams I was playing for, when I was on trial for, would make fun of me because I had that skinny frame. And I remember being a buck, 135 pounds, soaking wet. And I remember the defining moment when I was playing pro soccer. I was on loan to a team called Cambridge United. And I remember getting changed in the changing room. I remember taking off my shirt, and there was this guy in front of me who was sort of the class clown of the team. He sort of turned around and said, "Hey, look at Troy's chest, the new guy's chest." And everyone turned around. All the players turned around, the assistant manager, the manager, and they all made fun of me. Everyone started laughing how skinny I was. And I made a decision right there and then, same thing, defining moment, that would never happen again. So I really got into lifting weights, changed my diet. Long story short, when I was playing pro soccer for Nottingham Forest, I got released and got sent on loan to a lower league division team because I was too small. So I started weight training, I started eating differently. And then long story short, I ended up just giving up football altogether, soccer altogether, and then found my new passion and love, which was bodybuilding. Then I started doing personal training, did my first contest in 2001, and the rest is history. And then I turned professional as a bodybuilder in 2006. But I actually got involved in those sports accidentally. So it really made me the person I am today, but I would never have gotten there if it wasn't for discipline, having persistence. And I think that's probably why I preach persistence so much. And why I probably created a podcast is because persistence has been such a profound thing for me. And I think that's probably why I'm a big advocate of the book, Think and Grow Rich, and that chapter of persistence and how much I've read it. And, working with Bob for 6 years, he's really instilled in me the importance of persistence, and taking several times out during the year, every day for 30 days, just to read that chapter alone. And it's been such a big part of me. And that's probably why I promote it so much, not just to Jasmine and I, but also to our clients that we serve as well.
Man, I love that. And there's something you touched on there, and there's two pieces I want to talk about, Troy. One, you talked about your father being extremely, extremely heavy on discipline, right? He's a disciplinarian. Yeah. So what was he like when you weren't good? And what was he like when you were good? What kind of words did he use? And was it encouragement? Was it, man, you need to get better? Tell me a little bit more, because I think a lot of people listening to this, they have that father that is like very, very strict of, look, it's not enough, it's not enough. And some people take that and they use that almost as a reason to get better. And some people use that as a reason to kind of go into a ball and constrict, right? And not truly, grow as much as they can. And it's on how you look at it. I'd love to hear how he kind of approached you on certain things when you did well, when you didn't do well. And what was your mindset like back then, and how you received it and took action afterwards?
Such a great question. I think my father, when I look back, he was so supportive. I had a bad game. He came to all my games anyway. And if I had a bad game, I remember I would sit in my room and sulk for hours. And he would always come upstairs and sit on my bed and say to me, "You know what, son, don't worry. You know what, at least you tried your best." And he never, ever put me down. He always saw me trying. He always saw me practicing, trying to get better at my craft, trying to sharpen my skills. And I would practice every single day. And as long as I was doing that, he never, ever came down heavily on me. So he was always an encourager. And I can't actually remember a time where he actually was, said to me, what you're doing isn't good enough. He always supported me and always had my back. So that's one thing that I've always encouraged with the clients that we work with, is we never try and put them down. We always reward effort. And if they try their hardest and they give their absolute best. And that's all we ask for as coaches. I think the problem with so many people is that society is too easy now. Things are so easy now, just with a click of a button, that we get complacent and we don't have the work ethic or the discipline or the willpower to keep pushing on. And that's due to the fact that everything's way, way too easy. We live in a microwave society. So back to my dad, I think he was just such a positive role model and a huge influence on my life. He never, ever put me down one time. So I think I've really instilled a lot of those leadership qualities that he's instilled in me into my team and my business, which is Apex Life.
I love it. I love it, man. And you also touched on, and you didn't use this word, but it's what happened. You got bullied. From what I'm hearing, you got picked last many of times. You were sitting there and pretty good at soccer at this time, but you took your shirt off and you got made fun of, not just by one, not just by two, but the whole team, including the quote unquote leader. So in my mind, you were extremely bullied.
Yeah.
And that is extremely hard, especially nowadays where kids are getting bullied for the littlest thing. And it's so easy, right? Through social media, anywhere you look, you can get bullied, whether it's internet or face to face. How did you deal with that bulliness? Like, what did you do when you got bullied? And what can you give our listeners here a little piece of advice of when you are feeling bullied, whether it's from a leader, whether it's from a friend, a family member, what can they do to truly say, you know what, I am better than what you're saying I am, and this is what I'm going to do to prove you wrong. So I just want your insight on bullying. Like, you've went through it. So how do you think about it, and what actions do you take to overcome it?
I think first of all, what comes to mind, John, would be I was always a person that I would always prove by action and not by words. So I know some people who get bullied, they may get in a confrontation or they might use violence. But for me, it was always through success. And I can remember distinctly, like it was yesterday, playing, high level football in England against grown men when I was like 14 years of age. And I can remember to this day that those men would call me nigger. They would call me black, see you next Tuesday. They would call me monkey. And I'm talking about a 14-year-old kid. And I can remember taking it on the chin. And I think it made me the person I am today. It gave me so much mental toughness that I just sort of washed it off, if you will. And being called those names and being called, even being mixed race, they would make fun of me being mixed race as well. So I just remember having great games and scoring and then going up to them and saying, "Who's the nigger now?" And it was always just through success that I was able to prove people wrong. And even to this day, I remember before I became a pro at bodybuilding, a lot of the guys at the gym would say I would never be a pro bodybuilder because I didn't have the size and I didn't have the muscle maturity to make it to the pro leagues. And I knew who those people were, but I kept my head down. I just kept working away, kept chipping away. And I would hibernate and just train harder than anybody else, stick to my diet year round. And I never actually even approached them when I turned pro. I just let my success do the talking. So yeah, it's just such a great question. I think that resonates with me so much, John, I do get a kick out of proving people wrong, but I love doing it through actions, not through words.
Man, I didn't know, obviously, the whole backstory. And I think a lot of people deal with bullying throughout their life, whether it's a very short amount of time or a long period of time. And you went through it in many different stages at different ages. But I love what you said, man, of you beat bullying by showing success. Like, that's the best way to do it, right? Because when we get into this confrontation of just words, we waste so much energy on that and not focusing on what we need to focus on to be better and create that ultimate version of self. So I love you for sharing that, man. I really, really appreciate it. That means a lot to me as well as my viewers. And what was so all these things going on, all these, you're trying to get, become the best soccer player. Then you get into, the fitness world and you have all these obstacles. But what was the biggest, do you think, the biggest obstacle in your life that you overcame, and how did you overcome it?
Oh man, there's been so many obstacles and I'm still going through it now, John. I think the biggest obstacle I've ever had to face is the money paradigm. And, it's been a huge monkey on my back for so many years. And I just think one day I was this was like even a couple of years ago, make money, spend it, make money, spend it. Always in debt, always struggling. And it wasn't till I just started consciously watching other people. And I always believe, as we said earlier, success leaves clues. So I would watch and study and doing these podcasts with great people like yourself, speaking to people like Chris Harder that really have a good money paradigm. And I knew that it was something that I had to work on consistently every single day. And now I believe it's just a habit now. So it was my duty to change this money paradigm that I had for so many years from such a young age. And I think when you're young, you're so impressionable, your subconscious mind is wide open. And I would see how, my friends live, how my folks would live. And no one ever saved, no one ever invested money, no one had it. So it wasn't till I started reading the books, it wasn't till I started picking people's brain and hiring a coach, hiring a mentor, that I started taking on those behaviors as a man. So it's been a huge Achilles heel for me, but I'm grateful to say that I finally figured it out. And my wish now is for everybody to get it, because it really can hold so many obstacles in your life if you don't figure it out. And I believe that happiness and wealth is not just money, it's a whole spectrum. It's, it's the pillars, it's relationships, it's financial, it's spiritual, it's relational. So once you get all those attributes, what I preach as a man, which is part of the quote unquote apex life, really you have the keys to the kingdom. But it takes work, and it takes effort, and it takes persistence and commitment to keep doing the disciplines day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year.
I love that. And the money thing is such a big issue. I think people have one of two problems, Troy. I think either they spend money as soon as they get it, or they hold on to it because they're scared to invest in themselves. And you had mentioned a coach, and you mentioned books. So tell me, what is the best book you've read to help you create a better habit of understanding your money, spending your money, saving your money, and just really, the understanding of how to utilize money and not have money utilize you? What's one of the best books that you've read?
Well, I think the classic Think and Grow Rich is something that I've read every single day, and I made a commitment to read it every single day, even if it's just a paragraph a day. That's been a huge driving force. I think the chapter on faith, where he talks about the self-confidence formula, I've memorized it now. I'm not saying that to impress anybody, but I really wanted to internalize what he was saying, because that book leaves a lot of success clues from Andrew Carnegie, from Thomas Edison, from Henry Ford, all these legends, Rockefeller, all these legends, and Napoleon Hill was around these gentlemen for 25 years. So you think he probably picked up on some cues? Absolutely. So Think and Grow Rich. And then secondly would be The Richest Man in Babylon, would be another great book. He talks about, putting a little bit aside each time you get some money. And then one more book that was actually recommended by Chris Harder on my show, The Persistence Factor, was a book by T. Harv Eker, The Millionaire Mindset. And that book is so well written. It's so easy to read. You could probably read it in a day if you wanted to. And there's so many nuggets in that book, John. So I would say those three: Think and Grow Rich, Richest Man in Babylon, and lastly, The Millionaire Mindset by T. Harv Eker.
I love it. I love it. And guys, when you listen to this, get the books, but remember, it's information. So you need to make sure that you have implementation, right? So information over implementation. I'd rather you read one of those books than implement for a whole damn year before you try to go ahead and start reading the other one. We have this big issue of, John, what's the best book I should read? Troy, what's the best book I should read? Well, first off, what's your damn problem, right? And I think for anybody that has a money issue, those are 3 amazing books. Now go pick one up, read the damn thing, and take massive action. And as Troy said, discipline daily, time and time, over and over again. I love it. I love it.
Love what you said. You have to apply the information. Love that. Action.
Absolutely. So I see some of your strengths. I've been watching you, and you've been growing massively, and I love the Persistence Factor, one of my favorite podcasts out there. You guys need to go subscribe to that thing immediately, first off. But what are some of your weaknesses, man? And how do you approach that? Because people have different thoughts on how you approach a weakness. I'm interested to hear about what are some of your weaknesses, and how do you attack, not attack? How do you approach your weaknesses?
I think a big weakness for me is listening. I'm always now very aware that I need to listen more, talk less and listen more. I think God gave us, 2 ears and a mouth for a reason. So I think a good leader is very good at listening. So that's one huge thing I've had to work on, and I continually work on to this day. So listening is huge for that. I would also, my biggest issue that I've had up to this point is my speaking ability. I can remember when I got involved in network marketing and our company launched in Canada, and we hit a new rank, and it was my turn to go up and speak in front of 300 people. And I remember the woman's name was Ruth Elliott. She was a huge leader in the organization. She grabbed the mic, put it underneath my mouth, and said, "How you feeling, Troy, that you hit a new rank?" And I was like this, John, honestly. And I remember all the guys at the gym were there supporting me when I hit this new rank. And all the way home, driving home, they basically did not let me sort of rest in my laurels. They were on me, and they just could not stop laughing. They had tears coming down their eyes. But I made a decision again that I was going to get better, and I continually work on, my craft. I've got a huge affirmation that I wrote here, that I am a tremendous speaker. My timing, my vocabulary is basically, I would say, tonality is world class. And I write that, and I look at that every single day. And it's something that I'm always trying to continue to become better at. And I listen to people like yourself, people like Tony, people like Jim Rohn, who's probably one of my favorites right now. Obviously being around Bob and seeing how he speaks and how calm he is as a speaker on stage. And I think that's the most important thing that I can give any value to someone who wants to become a good speaker, is they've got to learn how to calm down, but also speed up.
Yes, absolutely. And, me being super high energy, I'm always on a go. But what I'm starting to do is realize, just like you said, of slow it down, still emphasize, still use your tonality, punch it when you need to punch it, but also articulate like you need to articulate in order to get the message across, right? So it's definitely a battle to make sure that you're engaging with every single person in your audience, because everybody's hearing things differently. if you're listening to this right now and then you listen to this a month from now, you're probably hearing things a little differently just because of what's going on in your mindset, what's going on in your life. So for me to be able to try to connect to every single person, no matter where they're at, you're right. It is something that you need to affirm and create an affirmation around it. Which I'm glad you brought up affirmations. I'm a true big believer in affirmations, and reading The Secret, obviously that's a huge piece. So tell me what, your time with Bob Proctor, that's 1000% priceless. So I need to know a little bit more. What was the experience like with a man like Bob Proctor?
Just so many nuggets, John. I mean, there's so many things that guy does. And I think, first of all, he's like Tony. He really practices what he preaches. And I think for me, as a leader and as a coach, and if I find a mentor, they have to practice what they preach. So I think that's one thing that Bob, he does practice what he preaches. I mean, you walk into the guy's library, he has books wall to wall. And one thing that I really monitor and observe about him is his calm state. And he's never in a rush, but he gets so much done and he's so productive. Like the way he goes about his day and how he structures his day, he's got everything, rocking like a Swiss watch. He really understands not time management, but he knows how to manage activities. So I would say for me, looking at him, as a student would be how calm his mind is and how he literally takes, as a man think of the chapter on serenity, he will take that around everywhere he goes. And I've seen it, and he carries it in his pocket. And just before he goes on stage, he just reads it and he just keeps him in that calm state. And I think because he's so calm, he's able to maybe he's able to channel different energies, and he's able to really get to that subconscious conditioning, which he's programmed himself for so many years, ever since I think his defining moment was in the early 60s. But I bring him up because he's what you call a professional, and he really takes his work seriously. So, and going back to the speaking thing, for me, I actually had a very bad speech impediment when I was younger. I had a severe stutter, and every so often you'll hear me speak. You'll notice every now and again I go into a stutter, and it's just something that I'm aware of, but it's made me the speaker that I am today. So I actually embrace it and I appreciate it because it shows people that I'm actually real, and how I'm speaking it's from the heart and it's not fake, if that makes sense.
So you had a speech impediment.
Yes.
You have a podcast. You're obviously speaking on other platforms. How did you overcome it? What made you say, I'm going to stick my neck out there. I'm going to basically show all my flaws? Because when you're up there speaking and you have a speech impediment, that's your number one way to communicate. That can't be easy. Right? That can't be easy. So what made you first off say, I'm going to stick my neck out there. I'm going to show you my flaws. And really, what was the mindset going through that whole process of like, I'm going to fight through it? Because I'm sure, like you said, you continually do it. But why did you decide to do it? Why does this part even matter to you, the public speaking part?
I think with public speaking, I think it shows that you have leadership qualities. And I think in society now, people need to be led than ever before. I think there's a big disconnect right now. Maybe the fact that social media is being a big problem. People aren't communicating with people. People are following people that really they shouldn't even be following in the first place. So I think, and I think you would probably agree with this, I think being that we're both leaders, and this is something that we continue to work on every day, being a leader. And I always say leader of one, leader of many. If you can't lead one, then you can't lead any, meaning you can't lead yourself. So I just really wanted to become a good communicator. I really see people like how Bob would just literally have the crowd in the palm of his hand with a mic. And I'll just watch him and I think, like, how does he do that? He did it through obviously 10,000 hours of practice. And I watch people like Les Brown and Tony and people like yourself. And when I see you guys speak on stage, it's like people look at them and think, oh, they get maybe envious, but they've done their time and they've done their 10,000 hours and they keep practicing to become better. So for me, having those disabilities, if you will, not being able to speak and having a speech impediment when I was younger, I really wanted to beat that. And I think I've always been a person that cannot settle. I always want more. And I believe, and you probably believe this too, John, you're either moving forward or you're going backwards. You can't stand still. I think that's just the way things are. So I want to continually get better as a coach. I want to continually get better as a leader, and I want to get better as a speaker because I understand the power of words and being a good communicator, and also more importantly, being a good speaker.
So you said power of words, Troy. So I'm gonna throw some words out there for you, and I want you to tell me on a whim what you think about as soon as you hear these words. You ready?
Yep.
Failure.
Success.
Success.
Leader.
Love it. Fear.
Mindset.
Hustle.
Belief.
Why?
Legacy.
Tell me more. What do you mean your legacy? Tell me what you want that to look like. What is your why, Troy? And I love those answers, by the way. Absolutely phenomenal. I need to dig deep on what you want your legacy to be and why is it so damn important to Troy.
I just think if you ask Jasmine, and she gets to see me on a daily basis, I love people. I love to see the shift when people finally wake up and they get it. They go, oh my goodness, after all this time, the lights turn on and you see that person just literally go from being stuck to just transforming. And it can happen in a moment just through a decision. So I think as a leader and as a coach, I love that moment. And I feel that so many people are holding themselves back. So many people are living in that scarcity mindset. So many people are frightened to go after what they truly, truly want, meaning that C-type goal, that fantasy goal, because they believe that they can't have it, but they're not willing to do the necessary work to get there and work on their belief system. That's why we love the power of affirmations and why they're so important, but saying it with feeling like an incantation. But I think legacy for Troy is knowing that the name Brown, Troy Brown, means something. And I love my family. No one in my family has ever really done something substantial. And I really wanted to change that. But I think for me, the legacy is my son and showing him that because of his dad never settled, that he also took on those principles and those beliefs and those mindset philosophies as well, because he also wanted to become better. So I really think it starts with me, but knowing that everything that we have in our life, the nice cars, a house, that's nice, but your name lives on forever. And I think that's what I'm trying to do here is, and I think that's probably why I really wrestled with bodybuilding, because I really thought that bodybuilding was my calling and it was my way to inspire others. But it took a bad injury for me to actually wake up and say, no, that's not your calling, Troy. What you're doing right now is your calling, and that is service to others. And I spent, honestly, John, 30 years of my life just being selfish. You know, being a soccer player, there is a little bit of selfishness in that. Being a pro bodybuilder is probably one of the most selfish sports in the world. And I talk about this in many interviews. Now it's all about how can I provide amazing value or service to people? How can I go the extra mile? And how can I deliver the best content possible? And how can I keep getting better as a leader so my name can live on and on and on? I don't know when this legacy I'll be basically finally at peace with it. But all I know right now is I made a decision that I'm going to get better. I know that there's a lot of ups and downs. There's going to be a ton of trials and tribulations in that moment. But once you make a decision, it doesn't matter. You burn the ships, you burn the boats. You know this is what you're going to do. And I'm devoting my life to this now. So I think I don't want to be selfish anymore. I've done it all my life. Now it's time to give. And I believe if you give, you're going to receive. And that's just the golden rule.
I love it. I'm going to go a little bit deeper if you don't mind, Troy. So you talked a lot. You talked about your kid. You talked about your son. You talked about your legacy being, you want to change the Brown name a little bit, right? You want to leave something for generations and generations after you and your name to remember this is what you guys stand for and continually do so. But why is that so important? Because I'm always curious, because I hear a lot of people want to leave this legacy. People want to, change their legacy of their name, and they want to have their kids see, their father be a great man, so on and so forth. But deep down, I just always want to know, why is that so important to Troy on making sure the name Brown is different, making sure that his son sees the way a man should be? Why is that so damn important?
I think because I've lived it for so many years, struggle and having to continuously hustle and work and reinvent myself and start over. I've been in so much struggle and turmoil all my life, and it's made me the person I am today. And I'm extremely grateful for those many, many down moments that I've been through. But at the same time, I just really, in my heart of hearts, want to prove to myself that I can do this. And I've done it in other sports. And this next phase of my journey is, I think I'm doing this finally for me. I think with football and bodybuilding, football more in particular was more for my father, for bragging rights for him. And playing and bodybuilding was just a way for me to escape from being not happy with my life and where I was. But I can finally say, and I said this to Jasmine the other day, I am truly happy right now. I'm not where I need to be. I believe that the road is better than the inn, meaning it's the journey. So you are successful if you're, applying and going for what you're going after, meaning, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And that's Earl Nightingale. But I feel right now that I'm the happiest I've ever been because I finally get it. And I understand that I'm living life on purpose and I'm making a difference. I can personally feel that I'm making a difference in people's life. Here's an example. The other day, I was talking about this on Instagram. I had one of those days where it just wasn't clicking. It was having a tough day. I was having a bad day mentally. I just wasn't thinking right. And I remember getting on a coaching call and I was with this young lady that we're coaching. And I had a Skype call with her. And I really got her out of her funk. And that literally just changed my entire state. And I was on cloud nine the rest of the day. And that was a huge wake-up call for me to realize that state is everything, obviously. But the only way you're going to have true fulfillment is by serving and helping other people. So I'm not sure if that's answered your question, but I'm sort of going with my intuition here.
It does, man. And what that shows me is that you said before, soccer was selfish, this was selfish, but really what you're doing now is for you. I think it's crazy how we think, right? Like what you were doing before, it was soccer, it was selfish, but what you're doing now is for you so you can help others. So it's just cool the way that you're thinking of it. And I love that you're able to help so many people, even when you're in a funk, which helps you get out of your funk. I think that's the most incredible thing as a coach. And I respect that because I do see a lot of other coaches out there that if you could tell if they're in a funk, you could listen to the phone call and you could tell, versus shutting the door and saying nothing else matters but me and you right now. I have all these distractions, but nothing else matters but me and you. You're paying me. You're investing in me. My life, your life is in my hands, and I respect that. And for that, I'm giving you my 100% undivided attention right now. So I respect that about you, man. 100%. 100%.
Love
and
that.
You said something that is exactly why this podcast has been created. You talked about success, and success is progression. And that is exactly why the Power of Progression podcast has been created. It's because success is literally, you feel the happiest when you are progressing. You don't necessarily feel the happiest when you lose the 40 pounds. You feel the happiest when you lose the 2 pounds and then another 2 pounds, right? And you look better and you look better. And it's that progression is where truly happiness and success lies. So I'm so grateful that you actually brought that up. Now, go ahead.
I was just going to say, because we work with so many people, 80% of our business is weight loss and people wanting to feel better, move better, and have an abundance of energy. And I think sometimes what happens is they lose sight. They just so obsessed with the end result that they forget about the destination, that the road, if you will. And I think it's just sometimes, and I'm really glad that we're touching on this, that we have to go back to enjoying the journey, even though that sounds cliche, but it's so, so true. Why not start actually enjoying the moment? I think that's why I promote meditation so much, Jasmine and I, because it really allows you to stay right here, right now, and focus on being present so you get to enjoy the moment. But I think as people, especially in this world, in this Western world, we're all about what's in front of us. We got to get there. We got to get there. Here's an example. I was talking to someone yesterday about the book Maxwell Maltz, Psycho-Cybernetics. And he's a plastic surgeon, and he would take people that would have a scar, or maybe they weren't happy with a facial feature, whatever it was. He would fix that issue and literally have a new face, but they still wasn't happy. So I bring that up just to tell people that, by the way, that's a great book. I highly encourage for people to get that and put it into their library and read it, like you were saying earlier, over and over again, because there's so much power in that book. But I think we got to get back to the basics of enjoying the journey, of if it's transformation or if it's a business, Because when you really sit down and let's say you reach your destination, you're going to sit back and say, you know what, I actually didn't enjoy the journey all that time. I was more obsessed with focusing on getting there. So I think the power is in the journey.
The power is in the progression, baby. The power is in the progression. And there's a short story kind of, I'll let you know as well as my viewers. So there's this brand new newlywed couple, right? A husband and wife. They go to Croatia because Croatia is the most beautiful place for waterfalls. They have so many waterfalls. It's literally the waterfall capital of the world.
Yeah.
And so they get there and they see all these beautiful waterfalls, and it's coming up on the last day. And the guide tells them, hey, look, there's this one waterfall you guys haven't seen. It is the most beautiful waterfall in the world. So he looks at his brand new wife and he says, do you want to do it? And she says, well, let's figure out how long does it take to get there. And the guy says, it takes about 5 hours. And so they looked at each other and they said, we can get there in time and get back and be okay to get onto our flight. So they go ahead, they get in their car, they make the trip 5 hours, right? But for the first hour, they have to get to this one spot. And then all of a sudden, it's an actual ferry. So the ferry just left. So now they got to wait for it to come back. So instead of 5 hours, Troy, now they just added another hour on because they got to wait for the ferry to come back. So they get on the ferry and then they go. And now this road that normally takes 2 hours actually takes 4 because how muddy and windy it is. So now they added an additional 2 hours on their trip. And then on the next road, actually it's closed. So now they go ahead and have to take a back road, which adds on about another hour. Now looking at about 9-10 hours, they get to the most beautifulest waterfall in the world, the most beautiful thing they've ever seen. And they look at this waterfall, and in that moment, the man looks up at it and says, it's okay. Not realizing the true beauty of it.
Wow.
And the biggest thing about that is he missed hour after hour of having the conversation he was supposed to have with his wife that could have changed so many different things. He missed the people he could have interacted with that could have added value to his life, and he could have added value to others. He missed the way that the people talk and people walk and the different culture in Croatia, all because he was worried about one thing, getting to this destination within 5 hours.
Wow.
So my question to everybody watching is, what is that waterfall that you're chasing? And don't care about the waterfall as much as that journey along, right? Like when you're in the traffic, how can you make yourself feel like, oh my God, I'm grateful to be here, right? I'm grateful to be here and really be aware of everything and be present. And you talked about when you first got on this podcast about Sundays is just for you to be present with your wife.
Yes.
And or soon to be wife, should I say, right? And that is amazing. Now, where else during your week are you possibly not being present because you're still worried about that waterfall and getting there in 5 hours versus understanding that that process, the progression is really where the beauty is. That's gold. And because you've done so many different things where you've seen many waterfalls, right? You've seen the success in soccer, success in bodybuilding. You've done it so many times that if you didn't fall in love with the process and you didn't fall in love with the progression, what do you think the chances are of you actually going ahead and doing it all over again for a whole nother waterfall?
Yeah.
Right? You want to do it because you want to be in love with the process. So I respect you telling the story of being vulnerable and saying, look, you got to fall in love with that process.
Yeah.
Now, what is one of your limited beliefs? I'm a huge believer that we all, the most successful people in the world and the people that aren't successful, we all have limited beliefs. What is one of your biggest limited beliefs and how did you, Troy, get over it?
Oh man, there's so many limiting beliefs. Oh man,
Yes,
you know what it is? I would say the fear of worrying about what people think. I'm always a people pleaser. And I think that's probably why, again, I always gravitated towards music. I can remember when I was a kid, I love DJing. But DJing is a big part of my life, and music's a big part of my life. But I can always remember playing my dad's records, and he would have house parties with my mom at the house, and I would play the records. I would be like 6 years of age, and I would really want people to dance to my music. I'd really want them to feel good. So for me, it's all about not allowing someone to be mad at me. I always want to make somebody happy. I don't want people being mad at me. And I actually had to really work hard on that over the years and not really care about what people think. All I care about is what I'm doing, making a difference, and it is what I'm doing, making a contribution to society. But I had to get to the point through watching other people like yourself, people that are successful, and modeling their behaviors and getting to the point like watching Gary Vee, how he just does not care what people think, because at the end of the day, even though it's cliche, are those people going to be there at your funeral when you're transition onto your next phase of your eternal journey? So I think that was the biggest thing for me, and the biggest limiting belief was worrying about what people thought of me and always trying to be a people pleaser. And instead of worrying about pleasing myself and the people that I truly care about in my life.
Man, that's huge. I think that's such a big thing nowadays with social media and everything. We're always trying to fit in, right? We're always trying to fit in. So we do things that's really out of our character. How did you figured it out, you're self-aware, but how do you now daily, because it's a limited belief that probably still comes into your mind, how do you now daily overcome that limited belief of saying, I need to worry about what everybody else is thinking, right? Because if you worry about everybody's thoughts, you don't worry about anybody's thoughts. If you care about if this person thinks and that person thinks, you forget about what you think, right? So tell me how Troy takes this limited belief every day of worrying about other people think about him, and you crush it.
I'm smiling while you're saying that, because one thing that comes to mind is I try and do one thing every day that allows me to go out of my comfort zone. Yes. And if it's a post, or if I'm doing a little video or an IG story video or a YouTube video, whatever it is, I'm trying to do something that's going to force me to grow. That's going to make me go, oh, I can't believe you're going to say that. And I remember when we really started moving our business forward, we did a whole 30 days of live Facebook videos. And I remember the very first video that we committed to, the night before, I couldn't sleep because I was worried about what people thought of me. Now I couldn't care less, but it took me to get out of my comfort zone to keep doing that over time, every single day, get uncomfortable. And I think if someone really wants to get over that fear, do things that are uncomfortable, face the thing you fear. Like Joseph Campbell said, the cave that you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. So
I love that.
I love that quote. I got it on my vision board right here. I love that so much, because every day I'm always trying to get uncomfortable. And I really believe that the people that are extremely successful, the Tony Robbins, the Bobs, the John Marones of this world, they're the ones that are willing to do things that are uncomfortable. It's like the common denominator of success, is doing the things that failures don't like to do, right? And we don't like to do it, but we do it anyway. So for Jasmine and I as coaches, we're always trying to do things that are going to stretch us, that are going to make us uncomfortable, because we know that's growth. And I think that's probably why I said the other day that I'm extremely happy right now, is because I'm doing things that are uncomfortable, but I'm sticking to my self-promises.
Man, I love that. I need you to repeat that quote for everybody listening, watching, when you guys are watching this on YouTube, because I need everybody to write this down and then live by it. Please, Troy, repeat that quote for me.
It's a quote by Joseph Campbell. He says, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek.
Oof, gold. That is gold in itself, man. I love it. So the most important 4 hours of your day are going to be the 2 when you first wake up, and then the 2 before you go to sleep. What do those 4 hours look like for you, man?
What a question. What amazing question. I'm like you, John. I always get up on the Fs. I learned that from you the other day. I've been using it, if you don't mind. Thank you for that one.
Rock with it, man.
Getting up on the F. So I get up anywhere between 4 and 5 every day. But my morning ritual is so grounded into me now that when I don't do it, I feel like a huge part of my day is missing. So for me, I get up anywhere between 4 and 5, and I immediately drink water with apple cider vinegar. So I hydrate like what you do.
Yep.
So I hydrate like crazy. And then the next thing I'll do, I'll meditate anywhere between 30 to 10 minutes. And then for meditation, I go straight to the book. Right now I'm reading a Richard Branson book, and I also read Think and Grow Rich every day. So I do that for about anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes. And then from there, I'll go and do my affirmations in the mirror. And then that really sets the tone for my day. And then I start working pretty much. So that's my morning ritual. And then every night before I go to bed, I always finish off with that same affirmation from the success, not the success formula, the self-confidence formula. And I also do my other affirmation on top of that, but I say it loud with feeling. I remember when I first started doing it, I'd be worried about Jasmine hearing me. Now I don't care. I just do it anyway. I just stand up and I say it aloud. But I think she's a great reminder for me, because she will go to bed And she'll say to me, did you do your affirmations? And I will say, yes, I did. But it's a good reminder that she's also on the same path too. So she's like, not just my, my significant other, she's also like a mentor too. So she always pushes me because she knows how much I want success. So yeah, always at the end of the night, my bookends are in the morning, I do my ritual. And then the last thing I go to bed is always, I do my affirmations before bed. And I want to get that affirmation into that subconscious mind, because when you're feeling drowsy and you feel as though you're about to drift off to sleep, that's a great time to use the power of incantations or affirmations or visualization.
Yes. If you guys are not doing that, you are missing a very, very big percentage of why you could become successful. And there's actually, you can go on YouTube and you can listen to, IAMs and incantations, but I would suggest even putting on, recording it and put it on loop and just put headphones on and just go to sleep listening to it. And I agree 100%. And checking a box off, it's so key, because I think a lot of people, Troy, they'll say their affirmations to say their affirmations because it's what successful people do. Well, doing it and not actually feeling it and visualizing it, there's no point to actually just say it, right? You need to believe it. You need to see it. You need to feel it. It needs to become a part of you, because we're made up of energy. And if we put that into our energy, it just comes out tenfold. In the morning, when you say your affirmations, are you like rocking back and forth? Are you pretty still? I'm always interested to hear about people when they do their affirmations, what their body language looks like.
Yeah, oftentimes I'll do it in a meditative state. So I obviously sit up straight and I'll put my hands on my lap, and then I'll just, say it aloud and I see the goal or the thing that I'm visualizing while I'm saying the affirmation. So I'm really trying to generate the feelings of having it now so I can see it in my mind. But with the self-confidence formula, and I had this same discussion with a coaching client the other day, John, is that he was telling me that he's reading the self-confidence formula, he's saying it aloud, but he doesn't believe it. I went, well, how long have you been saying this for? Oh, it's only been 7 days. Well, it's going to take a lot longer than that, my friend. I said, I've been doing this for almost 2 years. So you can't expect results happen overnight. You can't expect to believe something just in a week. You got to do it over. Repetition is a mother of all skill. So you got to do it with conviction and belief. And eventually at some point, I don't know when that day will happen, usually anywhere between 30 and 66 days, there's a switch, something happens to you. I think psychologically something happens to you. You start to say to yourself, oh my gosh, like I actually believe what I'm actually saying. And then your behavior starts to change. And that's called praxis, which is the integration of belief with behavior. Meaning you could believe something, but do you subconsciously believe it? And the way to show that is through your results. See, someone could say, I believe that on a conscious level, but subconsciously, do you believe that? And I always say whatever's impressed is going to be expressed through the body. So if you believe something, then your results are going to basically show a difference. So that's praxis. I learned that from Bob. But yeah, I had this conversation with this young hockey kid that wants to go NHL. And he's saying, I don't believe my affirmation. Well, you've only been doing it for a week. So you've got to keep doing it. If this is important to you, there's a non-negotiable. You cannot give up on the power of your affirmation, but you got to say it with conviction, and you got to do it over and over again. Force repetition, as I said earlier, is a mother of all skill.
Yeah, and a lot of people think all of a sudden like they could do it for 7 days and be fine. Well, think about it. You built a bad belief system for X amount of years. It's like a drug addict, right? I was an ex-addict, or I still am an addict, and I have many friends and family who go through the same exact thing, and it doesn't happen overnight. Why? Because you've built this belief into your nervous system for so many years, for 20 years, let's say. Do you truly think that's going to take 7 days for you to reverse and actually all of a sudden start believing the opposite? It's not possible. It is not possible. You can get an extreme high and ready to go energy and motivation coming out of a great conference, but talking about the true belief, like you talked about, that takes absolute discipline. And you said something that I actually have never heard before, and I love it. What it says here, what is impressed, right, is expressed. Is that correct?
Whatever's impressed is going to be expressed through the body.
Oh, yes, I love it. And you impress it by having a daily habit and discipline of affirmations and gratitude. Gold, my friend, absolute gold. That's why I brought you on, because I knew there were going to be little nuggets like this, and I'm writing things down because I love having interviews to where I could write down some little nuggets and just implement it in my life and give it to the masses. I appreciate you for that.
My pleasure.
And you're obviously a coach, and you coach celebrities, CEOs, some amazing minded people. But what about you? So what do you do when you're in a slump? I know you probably tell them, but what does Troy do when you're in a quote unquote slump and you're not feeling motivated? What do you do?
I really have a great coach. She's in the other office right now. She is, if you look at what I've created and what I've done, all the success is really down to her. I think she was with me in the beginning when I went through major depression. She stood by me the whole time. I have so much, I probably will get emotional because she's been through my journey from the very beginning, and I could write a book on it. She met me with black bags. I had these black bags full of all my clothes when I was homeless. So, and I say that to people but she really believed in what I wanted to do and what we continued to do together as a couple. But it was, I think she is someone that I really confide in when I'm having a tough time. She gets me, she lifts me up, and I do the same for her too. Because we have our moments. We're not perfect. We just look for progress. But we go through days where, things aren't clicking, but we confide in each other. And I think that's the power of having a very, very good significant other in your corner who supports you no matter what. So, and I also have a coach too. So I've always believed in the power of a mentor, John. All throughout my sports, I've done football, bodybuilding, and, network marketing. I've always had a coach in my corner. I've always had someone that I could confide in that could hold me accountable. When I said, I want to achieve this, and if I'm not following through, they're going to call me out on my BS and say, Troy, you said you're going to do this. This is the goal, but your behavior isn't, resonating. So you said it's time to step up, buddy. Or I love it when a coach plays hardball on me. They said, look, if you're not going to do as I say, if you're not willing to put in the work or do the effort, I'm not going to coach you anymore. And that's what Bob told me many years ago. He says, if someone doesn't do exactly what I say, they're hiring me for a reason. They're not doing exactly what I say, and they choose to do something else. They're wasting my time, and I'm wasting their time. So we should just part ways. So I think sometimes as a coach, this is something that I've had to develop because, again, I was such a people pleaser. I didn't want anyone to be mad at me. So now I've had to, develop this different skill and play hardball with my clients and tell them permission to speak freely. You said your goal was this, your why is this. Why aren't you doing it? And they will say they don't know, which means they're unconscious and competent. And I just coach them and I say, listen, there's some action steps that you're going to have to do in order to get there. Are you willing to pay the price? Are you willing to get up in the morning and do your affirmations? Are you willing to do your meditation? Are you willing to do your gratitudes every single morning? Are you willing to follow a certain lifestyle of eating the right foods? Most people in that situation says yes, but it's all lip service. I just want to see action. I want to see by behavior, by results. And I personally believe in the world that we're in the physique industry, in the transformation business, trying to transform bodies. It's the only small minority of people that ever get there and permanently get there, meaning they're able to keep it off. And those are the 3%. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the 3%ers. Doesn't mean that the people that are in the 97 can't get to the 3%, because it can either happen by two things. Number one, an emotional impact, meaning something negative has to happen, maybe a heart attack. We don't want that. Or forced repetition. That's the only way someone can change, and really confining in their mentor, staying close to the campfire. The further you are away from the campfire, from your mentor, you're either going to get cold or you're just going to give up. If you stay close to your mentor, the chance of you succeeding are going to be extremely high, because success leaves clues and success rubs off on other people.
Man, getting close to the campfire. And it's as coaches, you look at it and we know when people are skipping calls, we know what that means, right? We know what that means. And like you said, asking for permission, right? I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. I want to go back real quick though, Troy, because you mentioned something that we really didn't dive into. So I want to take a few minutes to discuss this. You talked about depression, and you talked about having black bags. You were homeless. What part of your life were, this happening? Tell me a little bit more about that situation.
Well, I've been homeless twice. The last time it happened was in 2015.
Wow.
And I was in a previous relationship for 7 years, and that ended badly. And I had literally nowhere to go. But I met Jasmine, I would say probably, 8 months later. And yeah, I was pretty much living in and out of my car. I had black bags. I actually took her on a trip to New York. So we drove there. I saved up a bunch of money. And I remember we were packing up the car. She had her suitcase neatly packed. And here's me with some black bags. But that was my life. That was my mindset back then. And it wasn't that long ago. So it's really cool to see the growth and how much I've grown as an individual. And I continue to do so. But in those dark times, in those dark moments, if it wasn't for Jasmine, I don't know where I would be right now. But I think even though right then I had no belief, I was completely in a horrible place, dark times, and I was in depression. But she saw something in me. She believed that I had, what it was to make a shift, but also to improve upon things. And I'm extremely, I tell her every day, when I do my gratitudes, when I meditate, I'm so grateful for her because she's exactly what I needed, was someone to say, what the hell, Troy, like, this is unacceptable. You saying that you want all these things, you talk a good game, you say all the quotes. She would call me the quote master. So I wouldn't even practice what I was preaching. I would tell people that I would quote all these quotes, but not really, like I was saying earlier, praxis, integration of belief with behavior. I didn't really believe it. So I was a hypocrite, and she would call me out on it. And that's exactly what I needed. So we had many discussions where she said, look, if you don't sort yourself out, if you don't get things in order, when this is not going to work out. And I needed that tough love to smarten up. And that was 2.5 years ago. And it's been an absolute blessing as well. And I say that being completely honest and transparent on this podcast, that we need people like in our lives that you might get mad in the moment, but once you calm down and you realize, you know what, they actually mean well, they want to help me, and they see something in me that maybe I don't. So I'm gonna stop smarten up and change my life. And that's exactly what I did. I'm on this path right now. And that's why I had to let go of bodybuilding, because it took a severe injury for me to step away, because I went back to it after taking a 6-year sabbatical, because I believed it was my identity, John. I really believed that I was put on this earth to be a bodybuilder. And it was like the universe was guiding me, saying, no, Troy, this is not your calling. And it took an injury, a bad injury on my pec when I tore my pec, to realize there's something bigger and better in store for you. You just have to trust in the process. And now it's time to do the work. And that's what I'm continually doing now. And that's why I'm on this podcast right here, sharing the things that I've learned, all these trials and tribulations that's made me the man I am today. And that's why I promote persistence, discipline. Even got here, John, on my table here, discipline is the gateway to freedom. I truly believe that. And I look at that every day, because more people need to have discipline. If they're saying they want this goal, but their results aren't matching up, then they got to look at desire. They got to look at having more persistence. They got to be patient, and they got to have discipline. People think discipline is when you're being told to do something. I personally believe that discipline is when you give yourself a command and you follow it. It's your self-promise, is what you told yourself. And the reason why people are going through depression, and like I went through depression, is I was telling myself to do something, but I wasn't doing it. I was basically not holding up to my end of the bargain. So I was, in a way, I was being hypocritical, and I was basically backing away from my own self-promises. And when you do that, and I tell our clients this, when you don't stick to your own commitments, that's like hammering a nail in a coffin.
You just said something, man. I think this is so crucial, and I'm glad we're having this conversation. And this entire show, reason why I started it is really for everybody to be vulnerable here. It's a key to success. You said depression for you started when you realized you were making commitments that you weren't keeping.
Yep.
That is huge. I think a lot of people deal with that. I think they set these expectations and they don't hit them, and they go into this depression. They start feeling bad for themselves. So was it just Jasmine who got you out of that? Was there a mindset shift of just like, you know what, I just have to make it? Because a lot of people listening right now, I truly feel are over-promising to themselves and under-delivering, therefore causing a depression. What can they do to stop that?
Yeah, 80% was Jasmine. I think having her believe in me and always pushing me, because I would say these things. You said, well, you're not matching up. The results aren't showing, so you got to step up. And I think her taking a step away from the business and allowing me to step into this leadership role was the best thing that ever happened to me. And also watching an individual that who was coaching me at the time, his name is Joe Arco, seeing him do exactly what he said he was going to do. And here's me. Here's an example with the podcast. I had this idea for the podcast 3 years ago, John, and I didn't even pull the trigger on it. I was just waiting for the perfect moment, quote unquote. And it wasn't to Joe. I met him in a mastermind event. He said to me, I'm going to set up my podcast and I'll probably have it done within a week. We came back 3 days later. I said, how's the podcast going on? Oh, it's already done. I've done 5 episodes already. And I was like, holy crap. Like, here's me putting this off for 3 years and the guy's done it in 3 days. And I think watching him lead by example was a driving force for me to say enough's enough. Having Jasmine, on my back and pushing me in the right way, and then seeing Joe lead by example, I think those were the defining moments for me where I just said enough is enough. I had what you call an emotional impact.
So anybody listen to this, obviously you're not going to go out and find a partner right away if you don't have one that's going to be the right fit for you. But there is somebody that you look up to that practices what they preach. They live life at a higher standard. And you need to approach that person and say, man, can I mimic you? Can I follow you? Can I talk to you? Can I be in your circle? I'll do whatever it takes for you for me to be in your circle and approach that person, because if you don't, they'll never know. So you'll never, I always say, if you don't ASK, you don't GET, right? So approach that person that you look up to most and say, what can I do to be more like you? Give me any tips, anything. I want to be a fly on the wall. I know some super successful people that were broke, and they went to the most successful person in that industry and said, I just need to be a fly on your wall for 10 days, 20 days in your business. Would you allow me to? And they would say with open arms, yes, you can. And next thing you know, their whole life skyrocketed. So find somebody you look up to, guys, and sit in with them, study them, and be obsessed with it, right? Ed Mylett says, whatever's your obsession becomes your possession. So get obsessed with it. I took my addiction of drugs, and now I turned it into creating the ultimate version of myself. But I'm addicted to getting information and then implementing it from the best of the best, like Troy, like Joe Arco, like these amazing minds in this world. Because I don't know what I don't know, just like how you said you know what you didn't know. And watching somebody else do it and say, man, I could do that as well. But it comes down to one thing: massive, aggressive, annoying action daily. And that's where you are missing the boat. And that's where you change. You got to see somebody else do it and say, you know what, I could do the same thing. And then I call Big Mo, right? Darren Hardy calls it Big Mo. So it's getting that momentum and just letting it roll. I appreciate
I watched you too. I mean, I've seen how you work and how you said you were going to, put this podcast together, and I watched you just do it. And the way you hustle and the way you're like, okay, I need this person, I need that person. So you get things moving into action very, very quickly. And I always believe the universe likes speed. But going back to the mentor, and I heard this from Robert Kiyosaki, and I'm going to share this with the listeners because it's so powerful and it always resonated with me. I'm not sure if he said it in a book, maybe it was The Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or he said it on some type of audio, but he said, and I quote, he said, if your mentor or coach doesn't practice what they preach, fire them. And that's one thing that Jasmine and I see, and no disrespect to anybody, we're not calling anybody out, but a lot of people in our field call themselves coaches. They're telling their clients to do a certain thing, to live a certain lifestyle. And then you look on their social media and they're living the complete opposite. So I really take that onto heart, that if I am preaching something to my clients and I'm not doing it, I'm a complete hypocrite. And they should not listen to me. So I have to lead by example. I have to do the affirmations. I have to do the reading, the meditation, working out every day, doing the cardio, eating a certain way, living what we call this apex life. Because if I'm not doing it, how do I expect my clients to do it?
Yep. And the most important part is, Troy, you get to, right? You get to do that. And it's living out of, homeless and living out of bags, being depressed. Your mindset wasn't get to. Your mindset was, you have to. And I think, right now you have to so you can show your clients. But I know for a fact you're extremely appreciative for those moments that you get to go ahead and meditate. So
you know what, though, John? No, I will say this, though. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good, brother.
When I had those moments of depression when I was homeless, you know what it was? I had shitty standards.
Yes.
My standards were so low. Now my standards are so high and they continue to get higher. So, and that's just being around people like yourself, law of association. You are who you surround yourself with. You know, you are your 5 friends you hang around with most. So if I get to be around people like you, heavy hitters, people that are making a difference in the world, what's my behavior going to become? It's going to be exactly the same. I tell all my clients all the time, if you're around people that don't appreciate health, fitness, vitality, and they're doing the opposite, you're going to do exactly the same. So I'm not saying that you should not hang around with those people. Just don't spend as much time with them.
Yes, you become a product of your environment. Agreed. Audit your circle, people. Audit your circle. So let's kind of fast forward, and you go up to the white pearly gates and you see the man himself up there. What do you want him to say to you?
Job well done.
Job well done.
Job well done.
Love it.
You made a difference. You listened. You finally got it. I didn't think at some point there was hope for you, Troy, but you finally figured it out. You finally, when you were age 40 years of age, you made, and that was only a year ago or 2 years ago, is that you finally figured it out. You finally got there. You understood what I've been trying to tell you all along. You were suppressing it. And I think that's what bodybuilding is. And I love bodybuilding because it's taught me so much about discipline. But you know what it does? It's so ego driven that you suppress the thing that you're supposed to do most, because you really believe that being muscular, being strong is your identity, which it was for 20, 25 years. But what my true calling was telling me I was suppressing that. And that's intuition. That's the universe talking to you, guiding you, telling you you're not on the right path. But unfortunately, in the sport, what we do, it served a purpose up until, a couple of years ago. And I had visions and my intuition way back in 2006, 2007, when I turned professional. What I should have done now is walked away and said, okay, let's move on to the next chapter of my journey. However, I chose to pursue it more. But I'm not upset that I didn't listen to my intuition back then. It's actually made me the person I am today. So there's really, no failures, just a lot of lessons in the long run.
Yeah, Steve Jobs says it, right? You cannot connect the dots looking forward, only backwards, my friend. Only backwards. One more question before we get into the final question. You talked about auditing your circle, and I'm a true believer in that, as well as just your environment in general, right? It doesn't have to be people, but places and things. So how do you distance yourself and not allow negative influences to affect you? And what do you tell your clients?
First of all, you got to have the goal. I think the goal's got to be there, and it has to be something that you truly, truly want, not what anybody else wants, what you want. And then how you distance yourself maybe from people that maybe aren't your way of thinking or aren't like-minded is obviously don't spend as much time with them, but look at their results. I remember listening to Jim the other day when I was doing cardio. He said, I want to be around people that have really messed up their life and just hang around with them and just them to tell me what they've done. And I'll just take good notes, but it's so true. So
I love it.
I think, results, people's results, they're going to show, right? Tenfold. So I think if you're, here's the thing, our family, we love them dearly, but sometimes family can potentially, and they do it out of love because they want to keep you the same. They don't want you to grow. And it's not consciously, it's just subconsciously, but sometimes our family can actually hold us back. And we're not saying that you shouldn't hang around with your family. We're just saying, maybe don't spend as much time. They would be a couple of days, but you want to be around people like the John Marones of this world that I want to pick their brain. I want to know how they tick. I want to know what thoughts they're thinking. I want to know what their rituals are like. I want to know what their morning rituals are like, their evening ritual. I want to know what books they're reading, how they exercise, what kind of things they're doing on a daily basis, because I want the same results that they're having. And at the end of the day, results don't lie. Yes,
I love it. So find out basically what is currently going on in your current situation, and then slowly distance yourself enough to be able to grab the higher standard people and then just mimic what they do. This is the way I end every single show. And this whole show is built on power of progression. And I want people not just to be, totally motivated and extremely inspired, but I want everybody listening to take massive, aggressive, annoying action every single day. So with that being said, I need to know, Troy, what are 3 things 3 things that you could tell the listeners and the viewers that they could do immediately, and do it daily in order to be better today than they were yesterday. 3 things that they could take action on to be better today than they were yesterday.
Decision is so powerful. Like when you truly decide, like I was saying earlier, when the lights go on and you see that person make that shift, they're not going back to their old ways. Decision's done. They've burnt the boat. So decision. And you have to, it's imperative. Whatever you want or whatever you define success, you have to have a ritual. You got to have a morning successful ritual. The bookends are extremely important, morning and night. And you got to stick to yourself promises. If you tell yourself that you're going to do something, you have to do it, because here's the bottom line. If you don't, that's hammering a nail in the coffin. You've dug yourself into a grave, and we all know what a grave is. A grave is the ends kicked out. You can't get out of it. It's going to take a lot of work to get out of that. So you've got to stick to yourself promises. So number 1 would be, I've forgotten what I said now.
So you got make a damn decision.
Decision, yes.
Ritual.
Yes.
And then stick to your promise. I always say stick to the agreement, right? Stick to your contract that you wrote to yourself.
Yeah, that's why I'm big on accountability statements. That's like a verbal handshake. And what happens is when we work with our clients, they see what the criteria is, their daily criteria, and they look through it. And as soon as they sign it and they send it back to us, that's a verbal handshake saying that they are 100% committed on achieving this goal. And if they don't follow through, that's a big deal. For me, if I fill out a commitment statement, that's like my weight in gold. That's me showing my mentor that I am all in. There is no going back. I have raised my standards. This is how it's going to be. But 2 years ago, it wouldn't have meant anything because my standards were so low.
Insane turnaround, Troy. From homeless and depressed and black bags to a successful podcast. Apex is crushing it. And just overall, just a better world that you're living in mentally and physically. I am so appreciative to be a part of that world, to have you on here. But tell everybody what Apex is about. Tell everybody a little bit more about your coaching. I'd love to hear it. I want everybody to know so they can get value from it.
What Apex is it's a philosophy. We originally started it as physiques, having the body, having the physique. And we've realized now through all the self-growth and how far we've come that it's more to it than that. It's more about just living life the way you want to live it, but living it on your terms and just having all the pillars, making sure that you've got your relationships in order. You've got the financial stuff in order. You have the health. And the relationships, you have the spiritual side, you have all those pillars. That to us is the Apex life. It's more than just having a 6-pack, having 20-inch arms, having, a great pair of toned legs as an example. It's a lifestyle. It's just a way of being. And we have big dreams and goals with this philosophy that we're really trying to build. And people are now starting to wake up. They're starting to see what we're doing because we're just more, they might look on Instagram and see the muscle. But I want to tell people that the muscle is just one of the small components. It really is. It's all to do with this. And once we get this in order, and it doesn't stop, it's endless. You have to keep doing it because I think once you stop, you get complacent. You'll easily go back to old habits. Mm-hmm. So you understand that better than anybody, that it's a continued progression. And it doesn't stop. And health and fitness mindset has no expiry date. It's continuous.
That is phenomenal. So is there anything you want to offer to the viewers? Anything you want to throw out there? The floor is yours, man. You add massive value. And everybody, I only bring people on that add massive value, that are game changers, that will continually help you be better today than you were yesterday. So that is why I'm giving you the floor, my friend.
If the person has desire for change, and they're really sick and tired of being sick and tired. They don't just want the physical transformation. They want that mindset transformation where I was 2 years ago in that deep hole, and you can get out of it. I'm living proof that you can absolutely get out of it. But if that is you and you are sick and tired of being sick and tired, you've made a decision that you want a mentor or some type of coach to guide you. You not only do you have one coach, you have two coaches that really have a vested interest in your success. We'll set up a 15-minute call with that person, and we want to see if they have made a decision and if they really have the desire for change, because that's where the work begins. And we're not just talking about going to the gym 6-7 days a week. There's a lot of stuff they got to do behind the scenes that when no one's watching, meaning the meditation. They got to start getting back to being present and give back to themselves, because the problem, John, with so many people out there in the world is that they give to their family, they give to their career, and they don't give enough to themselves. And I always believe you give more to yourself, you're just creating a better version of yourself. And that's what you're all about, being a growth expert. And that's what we preach in this Apex Life. So we'll set up a 50-minute discovery call. We even work tirelessly on a 101 health and fitness blueprint that we took all our information over the past 40 plus years that we have combined together in this industry and put it under one document. And they can go on our website, apexphysiques.ca, and download it. And if someone applies that information and takes it and runs with it, they're not only going to have a physical transformation, they're going to have a permanent transformation, and they're going to be able to change their blueprint, their mindset of how this goes on. Remember what I said earlier, whatever's impressed is going to be expressed through the body, and that really, and getting their mind in order. And when your mind's in order, you really have the keys to the kingdom.
Yes. And where can they reach out to you, man? Where can they find you to go ahead and follow you and also ask you about the 15 minutes coaching?
So we have a website called apexphysiques.ca. We are going to be rebranding the name. We're going to be moving away from the physique, and we're going to be calling ourselves the Apex Life. And they can find us, that is on apexphysiques.ca. That's the website. They can find me on Instagram at the Troy Brown. And I also have a Facebook page called Coach Troy Brown. And we also have a Instagram page called The Apex Life. And that's on Instagram. So find us there. And we got tons of free information, tons of content, tons of blogs where we just give constant value, lots of free stuff that anybody can use at their disposal.
I love it. Is there anything else that you want to provide to the viewers? Any piece of wisdom, anything that you want to go ahead and throw out there to them to wrap this bad boy up?
One thing that just came to my mind just quickly was, who you are speaks so loudly, I can't hear a word you're saying.
Yes.
I don't know why I said that, but maybe that's how we end it. I don't know.
Man, that is good. That is so good. I love it. Troy, man, I appreciate you so much, more than you know. And watching you and your journey gets me excited to continually do my, justice of adding value and continually go on my journey. So I just appreciate you, appreciate Jazz. I love our connection, and I'm so glad that we're able to build a lifetime of an amazing value-adding relationship. So guys, you need to go follow my man, Troy. You need to go ahead and look at Apex and just truly, truly look at it. And then look, if anything, follow him and get curious about what he's doing and watch the growth. Look what happened in the last 2 years, right? What's going to happen in the next 2 is going to be phenomenal. Troy, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you. I'll be seeing you in Destin because you're coming to our Ultimate You retreat. I'll get
Absolutely.
you here shortly. Can't wait to bring you there. And make sure, guys, like I said, go follow him. Other than that, you guys can follow me at Real John Marone on all social media platforms. That's at Real John Marone, just at Real John Marone. You can go ahead into the website, www.johnmarone.com. But I hope today was a day that you made the shift. I hope that myself or Troy are able to give you just a little bit of a nugget that help you be better today than you were yesterday. And I want to make sure everybody out there realizes whatever life you want to live, you can go design it and create the ultimate version of you in all 6 equities. You got to take massive, annoying, aggressive action. Take what he said today, implement it right now, and do it daily, and start designing that life you want to live. And until next time, we appreciate you. We love you guys for jumping on. This is the Power of Progression podcast. We're signing off, baby, and have an amazing rest of your day. Make it powerful, make it productive, and let's go, baby. Woo!
Thanks, everyone.
Later, bud.